Hi, folks. It seems that Italy is in flames from Rome to Milan. Pro-Palestinian protests are taking over the streets and dominating headlines. But the question is, are these demonstrations really about solidarity, or are they fueling something much more dangerous? So that's what we are here for. And to provide you with an answer, I'm joined by my co host, Marco, live from Jerusalem, and by two gents diving in from Italy, Niram Ferretti and Giovanni Giacalone. So they'll break down the protests sweeping across Italy. So in the next 60 to 90 minutes, we will dig into politics, the media narratives, and what does it mean for Italy's futures. And as always, this is not just the four of us chatting to each other. Your voice also matters. So make sure to use the chat box to drop your thoughts and questions in the live chat, and we will make this conversation interactive. If you enjoy what we do here, make sure to press the like button below. If you haven't subscribed, no problem. The subscribe button is still there for you to be notified of the upcoming shows. So press that ring bell. And if you know someone who's into these sort of topics, make sure to share. And with that, I pass the word to Marco. Marco, good evening to you.
Good evening to you. Good evening to all our viewers. This evening we're dealing with Italy, and something appears to be bubbling below the surface in Italy. I think it's a little bit more serious than people would like to believe. To quote Hamlet, something is rotten in the state of Italy. Let me be a little bit provocative, but I think it's not simply a matter of protest, but there's something more sinister afoot. Now, this evening we have Giovanni Jacalone, who's an Italian-based security analyst and researcher on Islamist extremism and terrorism in Europe. So, Giovanni, let's start with you this evening. Thank you and welcome, first and foremost. And thank you for Niram, for we availed of his good offices to engage you, of course. So, credit where credit's due. I'm not convinced this is such a superficial event as many people would lead us to believe. There appears to be something bubbling below the surface, something which started a long time ago and which was set in train a long time ago, and the results of which we're seeing today. What's your opinion?
I totally agree with you. It is not something superficial. It's something that we have been looking into before the October 7th massacre, and especially right after. And we have realized that there was a mechanism that was in progress, and it wasn't spontaneous at all. What I always say and write, like when they ask me what I think about the situation, well, I think that the summary is actually quite simple. It is a widespread and rooted phenomenon, and it's a phenomenon that's based on mutual need. That means that on one hand, the far left, because we need to understand one thing: we have the far left and we have the Palestinian groups active on Italian soil, and they're helping each other. The far left, in my point, they don't care about the Palestinian cause. They care about creating issues, problems, and subverting the democratic order. Something which they have claimed on their websites and on their posts. So what they're doing is they're using the Palestinian cause. Some of them I have no doubt that some of them do share the ideological route, and we can get into that later. But I wanna start off with the practical side, because that's what concerns us the most. So the far left is using the Palestinian cause to to cause problems, to generate problems for, like blocks and strikes and etc.
Indeed.
On the other hand, the Palestinians, they are using the far left network, which is deeply rooted, and it's old, it's historical. I mean, we're talking about the 1960s, 1970s, the
Indeed.
years of lead.
Mm.
And they're using it to pressure the Italian institutions, the government, to cut bridges with Israel.
I see. Niram, let me just turn to you quickly. Certainly, these are powerful insights from Giovanni. My impression is, however, that also the so-called progressives have jumped on the bandwagon for the joyride as well. I think it's extended now to the let's call it the mainstream left. They're energized to a certain extent by this. What's your opinion?
No, I totally agree. They have joined the bandwagon, and they are holding the banner of Palestinism. So Palestinism is right now the main banner here in Italy, not only in Italy, but we're talking, of course, about Italy. So we will focus on Italy. It's the main banner of the left. So we can see this also right now, apart from what has been happening in Italy recently, in Milan, in Rome, in Bologna, etc. We see it right now with the Flotilla. We just heard a few hours ago the secretary of one of the main parties on the left, which is the M5 movement, Movimento 5 Stelle, and the name of this of the secretary is Giuseppe Conte, who also has been for a period the prime minister of Italy, and he said clearly that the flotilla should go on, because also we need to understand that inside the flotilla we have also some Italian PMs, and a few of them belong to the movement, to the M5 movement, M5 Stars movement, and he is just saying that they can force the blockade which Israel has been is creating, of course, in front of Gaza, and this is very, very dangerous. It's a very, very dangerous statement, because the Minister of Defense here in Italy, Crosetto, has been very cautious recently, and he has exhorted the flotilla, the Italian members, of course, of the flotilla, to just set back and not do not proceed, and because otherwise Italy will not be able to be of help for them, because in the moment in which they will be arriving near Gaza and they will be entering into those waters, of course they will be facing the Israeli blockade, and the Israeli blockade is completely legal in relation to what warfare regulations set up. So if there is an effort to force the blockade, of course the Israeli military will be forced to act accordingly to the rules of war. So I wanted to focus on this specific issue because it's an issue which is also related to the other ones, the one that Giovanni was talking before about this blend, in relation to this blend between Palestinism and the extreme left, and not only the extreme left, because the movement, the Five Stars movement, is not really a far left movement, but they are all holding, as I said before, the same banner, the banner of Palestinism.
Yes, very interesting. Vitor, do you want to chip in?
Yeah, I want to throw something here to the discussion, which is not exactly the events, or better said, how the events are being transmitted to the public. So that's all down to the media. We all are aware that people's perceptions more and more are influenced by how the press is bringing them into attention. So I would like to understand you guys, since you are in Italy, how is the national TV and the press in general presenting the events to the public? Are they trying to portray them as a stand for Palestine, or rather as some nasty stuff? Giovanni?
Well, I don't watch Italian television, but okay. In general, I don't. I see a lot of pro-Palestinianism among the media. I must say that there are a few newspaper / online news sites that are doing a pretty good job, but they're very few. We've seen major correspondence. Even I'm not sure if it was yesterday or the day before, someone from RAI who raised doubts about some events occurring on October 7th.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. I personally had a conversation with someone from one of the biggest Italian newspapers just a couple of days ago. Niram knows that. Because of a title of an article that was launched on Facebook saying Netanyahu provided to the UN his version of October 7th. So I picked up the phone and I called them and said, well, is there another version? Because if there is, I'm not aware of it unless it's the one, unless it's Hamas version. And so it's not it's not a happy situation if we talk about the media. I mean, that's
it is an I get that impression. Sorry if I wanted to recount an episode to sort of give you an idea of the quality of the reporting in Italy and their sensitivities, because I accompanied actually a journalist shortly after October the 7th, and we were in the square where the hostage families were gathered, and I was working as an interpreter at the time. And one of the Italian reporters, and I'm not going to mention any names, one of the Italian reporters asked somebody, a man, wanted me to interpret a question for a man who just learned that his son had been murdered that morning. Okay, they're through via DNA test. And he asked me to he was at the Nova Festival, and he asked me to ask this person, to put this question to him out of the blue: was your son in favor of peace? Can you imagine what type of sensibilities we're dealing with here? This is a key to understanding what we're dealing with in not just in the Italian media, but generally in the mainstream media in general. It gives you an idea of what you're dealing with. Somebody was at a Nova Festival party. The reporter wanted me to ask this question: was your son in favor of peace? He just learned he'd been murdered. Okay, I of course did not put that question. I said no way was I going to ask such an insensitive question. But I just wanted to convey an understanding of what's going on in the media. And I don't think it's an isolated incident.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's that's the basic narrative that is online. It's
implicit. The young lad who'd gone to a party to enjoy himself was in some shape or form a war monk by virtue of the fact that he was Israeli. Okay, but anyway, sorry, Giovanni, I interrupted you.
No, absolutely. I was not aware of this, and I find it disgusting.
It is repulsive.
And but you made me think about something. This type of this question, this type of mind pattern reflects this thing we're saying. That's sort of like, are you taking the distance from from Israel,
yeah.
If you don't, then
you had it coming. You had it coming in some way. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're, it's like, if you're not with us, if you're not taking a distance, then you're guilty just as as everyone else. Like
exactly.
Like if there is a guilt.
Exactly.
In the first place.
Exactly.
What is it?
Exactly. There's this Pavlovian reaction, there's implicit anti-Semitism, which, anyway, sorry, Niram, do you want to pick up on any of this stuff?
Yes, well, it's absolutely like this. Here in Italy, we have a very serious situation because, of course, Italy is one of those countries, one of the European countries who has not acknowledged the existence of the Palestinian state as the United Kingdom, France, Canada, Australia, and other states have done. But at the same time, we have a very, very high level of intolerance towards Israel and towards all those people who, in one way or another, are perceived as being connected with Israel. So, sorry. Right now, we have this sort of Orwellian situation in which, if you are not really, this is not something that concerns only Italy, it concerns most of the world. But here you feel it very strongly. Of course, we are talking about a country where both me and Giovanni live. If you are not really on the side of the Palestinians, on the side of the Gazans, you really do not belong to the human race. You are a monster. You are someone who needs to be pointed out as, of course, as someone who is more or less a Nazi, and you are considered like scum. So this is mainly the atmosphere that we have here in Italy. And here in Italy, we have a professor who has been intimidated, and during while he was giving while he was teaching. I don't remember. I think he is Jewish, but I'm not sure about this. Maybe Giovanni knows, but I don't remember. Okay, this happened some days ago. Of course, we had a few months ago the aggression of a Jewish French citizen who was here in Italy with his son. We had shops where we saw cards that were set up on the doors of the shops. We don't want Israelis here, and this adds up to this sort of atmosphere, which is very, very strongly against Israel. For example, another episode yesterday in Rome. We have here in Italy quite famous, internationally famous movie director. His name is Nanni Moretti, and he owns a movie theater here in Rome. And yesterday He just put a big banner on his movie theater, and on the outside of the theater, on which it's written that Netanyahu is a criminal. So you see, this is what goes on here in Italy, and very, very, very clearly, very in a very striking way, people from the movie, of course, from the movie world, actors, directors, but not only actor and directors. We saw this in Venice a few months, just 1 month ago, and now you cannot talk really. You in the moment in which you start talking about Israel and the reasons of Israel, that Israel is just facing a terrible threat. And is involved in a war, which is a war for survival, because of course it's a war of survival, not in the sense that, of course, Hamas can destroy Israel, but in the sense that Hamas is a threat to Israel, and Hamas is part of a much larger picture that, of course, involves Iran. And as we saw previously, during the world when Hezbollah was also involved in the world in the war. So if you try to explain this, people really don't want to hear, because they really don't, and they prefer not to hear, because the main narrative is that children in Gaza are being killed by Israeli soldiers. And a few days ago, we had a comedian here in Italy, quite a known comedian, who was invited because in a show of where he talked about politics, about of course the Gaza situation, because here in Italy we do not have only so-called experts that talk about Gaza, but we have people that come from the movie world, we have comedians, we have all kind of people, chefs, sous chefs, we have every kind of people who want to say something about the topic of the day, which is of course Gaza. And at a certain point, during the main point I want to make is this, at a certain point during this this show, this guy who was very, very upset said that he didn't accept a diverse opinion, a different opinion from what he was saying, because he says there cannot be a different opinion. I'm not interested in having a different opinion. This is it. It's in front of our eyes. Israel is committing a genocide, of course, and so we don't need to listen to people who try to say something different from what is absolute evidence.
You raise a very important question. Exactly. So sorry, Vitor, I'll just say one thing and then you come in, because it gives you an idea of the mindset. That was a very good example, because they're afraid to engage in a conversation and perhaps ask questions that may give them different answers. Vitor, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I want to say something along those lines, Marco. There is a death of the dialogue. We only hear one side talking to each other, and the rest is just shut down. But I would say that this is not new. Like, this started, as I remember, in 2016 when Trump was for the first time running for office. Then it was translated into the Chinese flu, and I think 2022 or 2023, I can't remember, the year when Russia invaded Ukraine. There was also a taboo to say that Russia had some degree of authority to get into the Ukrainian territory. And I'm not endorsing any of these things. I just wanna make sure that there should be place for conversation, and we should all be able to share our take. And at the moment is with Palestine, and to a degree migration. So if you say anything, if there's any concerns with people coming to your country without documents, then you are just racist. And if you don't and then they use this word of denials. There's COVID denials. There are genocide denials. There are racism denials. There is this jargon that people cannot combat, and you have to accept, because, as Niram just said, otherwise you are just part of the wrong tribe. You are just evil. And as we know, most people are not able to take on that label, because there are some repercussions that they cannot deal with. They might lose their jobs. They might not have anyone to hang out with. So they come with a price that not everyone is prepared to take, and it's very scary, because in that manner, society or civilization cannot develop, and we see more and more people just telling what others are saying, just for the sake of not facing a backlash. So that's very, very scary. I don't think it's only in Italy. This thing of chefs, comedians, all sorts of celebrities saying nasty stuff about Israel. They are just trying to score, on the social approval rating, and that's terrible from any other angle. But I would like to know, how is the Jewish community perceiving these events? Are they feeling intimidated? They are raising their voices and trying to get some protection. How are they feeling, Giovanni, if you are aware of?
As far as I know, I'm often in contact with Anti-Semitism Observatory, and in general, there's fear. I spoke to a friend of mine, rabbi in Milan, just a couple of days ago, and he told me that they're afraid. I mean, there have been cases. The observatory told me that now the average in the last few months is about 100 episodes, and these are only the ones that are actually signaled to the observatory. So you can imagine the rest. But in general, there's concern. There is a lot of concern. I want to add something to what Niram was saying before, because I think there's one very important thing that emerged from what he said. This is the thing. Look, they, unlike any other cause, I'm thinking about the war in Iraq or in Afghanistan. We have never seen in this country this mobilization. Why? Because they feel protected. They feel that they can support Hamas if they want. They feel that they can say and do whatever they want. And the question is why. Now, the issue that I'm about to raise is not very popular in Italy, but I think that we should at least ponder on it. I've been over Islamist terrorism, extremism, jihadism, whatever we want to call it, for almost 20 years. Okay, so I've seen it from the pre-Al-Qaeda phase. So we're talking about the Gamal Islamiyya, the Viale Jenner Center in Milan, up to the post 9/11, ISIS, the Pakistani group. Italy, so there were plenty of operations against Islamists in Italy, against all possible groups, okay, from Ansar al-Sharia to the Baelvi, the Tariq Taliban, Al-Qaeda, whatever. There is only one group that, to my knowledge, up until today, was never targeted in Italy, and that is Hamas. And my question is, why? And let me add another thing. Now, I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just saying that if someone can send me tomorrow court papers about operations done against Hamas on Italian soil, I'll be more than happy to read it. But in almost 20 years of work, I never bumped into it. Now, regarding the Palestinians, some will say, yeah, but yeah, they in early 2024 they arrested 3 individuals from the Al-Aqsa Brigade. Okay, first of all, that's not Hamas, that's Al-Fatah. Secondly, those arrests were made after Israel asked for their extradition. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of that case because it's very complex and it's very twisted, but it's because Israel asked for extradition. What happened with the Palestinian who threw a Molotov cocktail on February 1st, 2024 against the US consulate in Florence? And he then launched a video on a Telegram channel. I know I forgot the exact name. It was something like "We're all with Hamas" or "The world is with Hamas," something like that. Well, they firstly, the media immediately tried to depict him as Jordanian, and while he wasn't, he was Palestinian. He is Palestinian. Well, you know what happened? They dropped the terrorism accusation and said that he simply launched the cocktail again because he was frustrated. But it wasn't terrorism. Now, in my point of view, from what I've been taught, terrorism is violence, deliberate violence for political aims. Now, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what it is. So I'm just saying, going back to what I said initially, how many operations did we see in Italy against Hamas? Period.
You raise a very interesting question, and I'd like to pick up on that because I have to use the word collusion here at this point. I believe we're talking about collusion that stretches back a long way with the Italian state. There are many episodes of Palestinist terrorism on Italian soil, which I believe fall within the purview of the Lodo Moro, as you're all too familiar with. And there's something very strange which people seem to question very little, because I think Palestinism is part of a wider project. It really encapsulates a wider project for the infiltration of Islamism into Italy and indeed the world. We discussed this in a previous podcast where we spoke of stealth jihad. We're all too familiar with the violent jihad, but the stealth jihad, the smiley jihad, where we learn about Islamic culture until they gain a strong foothold, and then they start demanding Sharia law. Now, I want us to consider for a moment the building of the largest mosque in Europe, in the center of Christianity in Rome, when at the time there wasn't really a catchment area that justified such a building. I'd like to think a little bit about this, because I think it bears testimony to a wider plan. What are your views on that, Niram? And then we'll go to Giovanni.
I think that this is what you said is something very clear. We have the good face of jihad, the nice, glamorous face of it.
The iftar meals, the invitation to the iftar meals.
Yes, of course, and we know exactly who is on the front page of all of this. It's Qatar, of course. Qatar has this a stronghold, unfortunately, in many places in the Western society. It's the Qatar lobby. Let's use this word that brings about, the idea of the Jewish lobby. But the Jewish lobby is something different because it's always used in a derogatory term and goes back and brings immediately back to our mind the protocols of the elders of Zion. It's a different way. But of course, there's also a Jewish lobby in the sense that there are people who are advancing the interests of Israel. And as there is an Arab lobby, a Qatari lobby, an Emirati lobby, and a Chinese lobby, of course. I mean, this has to do with how politics works, And the Qatari lobby is very, very strong, and they pour an enormous amount of money in Western society, not only by buying football, soccer teams like they do in Paris with Paris Saint-Germain, or buildings or fashion houses, and they devolve a lot of money to, for example, they did recently to the Biennale of Venice. It's very glamorous because they look like the benefactors of art, of course. Now, as in the past, popes did with artists. So they have this very pleasant and charming side to them. And on the other side, they're pouring money, of course, in university programs that teach how good, how nice, how splendid is Islamic civilization, and so on. There is a researcher, an academic who is he's Canadian, Charles Asher Smile, who has been doing a lot of research on how much Qatar has been entering and penetrating the echelons, or let's say of the upper crust of not only British society, but of French society, of American society, and they do that with money, because they have this enormous quantity of money. But on the other side, the darker side of Qatar is, of course, that Qatar is the main financer, has been the main financer, of course, of Hamas, and not only of Hamas, as Giovanni knows very well and can tell, but other Islamist group. So, and this is very, very dangerous, because it seems that no one, and certainly not the United States right now, and certainly not the actual president of the United States, Donald Trump, is really interested in pushing back the influence of Qatar. As a matter of fact, he's praising Qatar as one of the main American allies in the Middle East. And we know that one of the top brasses in Trump's administration, Stephen Witkoff, has been doing a lot of business with Qatar, and the son of Witkoff, it just came out on the Jerusalem Post, is also involved with business in Qatar, and also the sons of Donald Trump. So there is this commission between this blending of business with Qatar, and this is the way in which they push forward their agenda, which is an agenda that is in complete opposition to Western values and to Western culture, and is deeply anti-Israeli and anti-Jewish.
Vitor?
I want to pick a comment here from someone called Sohail Butt. So I don't know if it's a Mr. or a Miss. I'm not very familiar. So I'm just going to call it, I think it's Mr. So I'm going to call it Mr. Butt. He's saying Meloni should be removed from power. That's the Mr. Butt incitement here. I don't know if this person ever put his feet in Italy or not, but it seems that he's fully entitled to say that this is it for Meloni. Meloni should be taken from power because she's complicit in the genocide in Gaza, given that military armed suppliers complete to be supplied under her watch and authority. This person needs to know a lot, or maybe he's just very much entitled based on what he reads on Al Jazeera. Your thoughts on that, Giovanni?
Well, first of all, this person needs to understand that Italy is a democratic country, and the leaders are elected by the people through a democratic process. So it's not that you don't remove someone just because you don't like what he does from abroad, first of all. Secondly, Meloni boosted last year, I think it was about, it was October 2024, if I recall correctly, that Italy was the first and strictest in blocking, in cutting all weapon sales, exportation to Israel right after October 7th, as the military offensive started. The Israeli military offensive started. And she boosted that Italy was the strictest among the other European countries. Having that said, I'm not even going to get into the genocide term because we've been discussing this issue for far too long, in my point of view. I don't think that Meloni. I don't think that it's in Meloni's main task to put, forgive the term, but to put her nose in what Israel is doing, because that's not what she was elected for. I think, I've been very, Niram knows this very well, I've been very critical of the Meloni government. I don't agree with many of the things she did, while I do agree with other things she did. But I think that Meloni eventually should do more to contrast the anti-Semitism spiral that's ongoing inside Italy. That for sure. But saying that a leader should be removed because she's not doing well, it doesn't work like that in democracy. Sorry.
Just a comment on that. Maybe Giovanni. I'm going to try to defend this person. Maybe this person is from a country where people can be removed just because they are not happy with what they are doing. Maybe this person is not coming from the Western civilization, so he has a different understanding of power. Maybe it's that, so we can give him that credit. Marco.
Possibly, or maybe this person simply wants to change the way things are done in Western countries as well. That's
very possible.
Which might be another possibility. You mentioned, Giovanni, Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister's reluctance really to tackle anti-Semitism. That certainly appears to be the case. Also, the fact that these violent demonstrations could take place is also something which shouldn't be allowed to happen, this lawlessness as well. I see no good reason why a government should allow that to happen and to not clamp down on that. The question is, what is impeding her from doing it? Is it the fact that it doesn't really matter that much anymore? Anyway, the Jews in Italy aren't that many anymore, so there is an element of expedience to a certain case. Maybe she's playing to the anti-Semitic gallery to a certain extent. Let's be frank. Aside from that little window of the Berlusconi government, Italian governments the Italian state has never really been that friendly towards Israel. I like to be a realist in these things and not get too sentimental, look facts in the face. I don't recall the Italian state ever being too friendly towards Israel.
Well, before you mentioned the Lodomoro, and that already explains a lot. Probably we're still seeing some sort of heritage of what Lodomoro was. So they're not too friendly with Israel, and they are trying not to target the Palestinians? Question mark. Absolutely. I think that one of the problems is that the Jewish community is not as big as maybe in other countries. That surely is an element to keep into consideration. I also think that there could be a political issue, an inner political issue. Maybe inside the majority coalition, maybe inside the party Brothers of Italy, there might still be some anti-Israel or anti-Semitic sentiment. I'd like to recall that just not too long ago, there were chats that were detected where a group of the party's youth was exchanging anti-Semitic messages.
Mhm.
So that's one of the many possible reasons. There is also another thing I noticed. Up until the this previous week, we haven't really seen any strong response by the anti-riot police. One thing that really caught my attention yesterday, and let's keep in mind that yesterday happened after Monday's mess in Milan's train station.
Yeah.
Yesterday, for the first time, I saw the anti-riot police charging the Palestinians in Torino. And they in my opinion, they seemed surprised. They did not expect it. But what happened was that they were wall against wall. They went against the shields, and as soon as they reached the shields, the police immediately reacted, and they reacted strongly with sticks, with water, with tear gas. And they seemed surprised. And I asked myself, wow, I just witnessed something new here. And
you see a glimmer of hope. Glimmer of hope.
But why? Because last Monday, the state, the government showed a very, very weak side, because you cannot have thousands of thugs from the far left and pro-Pal groups and whatever else is assaulting 150 police officers and having them retreat inside the station building while all this mass of this horde of thugs was that was a terrible, terrible message, because it expresses weakness, and a state, a government cannot afford that.
Absolutely. And of course it would demoralize the law enforcement people as well. They don't want to be on the end of that.
And keep in mind one thing. One thing.
Yeah.
The police union, the anti-riot police union, for the first time, they didn't do it directly, but they criticized the ministry and said, we were told not to react and only to control. Now, and by the way, they were understaffed too in Milan. And the question is why, since everyone knew that, it was a very hot spot. And for the first time, they said, they told us to control and not to react. And that's something that I had already seen in previous demonstrations.
Right.
So
right.
This is interesting because the police is now, the turning against the ministry. Like, what's going on? Why can't we react?
Why can't we defend ourselves first and foremost?
Exactly.
And they represent the state, of course. They represent the state. Now, you mentioned hordes here because I've been involved in exchanges with some Italians, and one of them who basically is one of the people who I've been exchanging correspondence with, let's put it that way, said this was a very marginal issue. There are very few people. It was just the odd casseur, as it were. Nothing. These things always happen. There are always these fringe elements, as it were. Then I spoke to another lady. She said, these do not represent the majority of Italians. The majority of Italians are pro-Israel. And I'm just trying to understand. I'd like to get a picture from you folks. Maybe I'll start with Niram. What's your view on that?
My view on that is that this is not true. I mean, there's a survey was made some months ago, not in relation to how Italians feel about Israel, but about anti-Semitism. And I don't remember exactly because it has some time has passed, the percentage of people who were expressing anti-Semitic point of views in a way or another, but it was quite troubling. So I'm not giving out numbers because it's something that I don't remember accurately, and so I won't do that. But I remember that it was quite striking. My personal perception is that there is a strong brainwashing going on. For example, I'm talking about a personal experience I just had yesterday. Yesterday was here on the outskirts of, not far away from Milan, in the north, on the Lake Maggiore. I was invited to present a book that I wrote in 2019, and there were it was good. There were not so many people, but let's say that in attendance there were about 50 people, more or less. And most of them, and I can say this from the reaction they had, from the questions they asked, etc., were certainly on the side of the Palestinians. Not saying that they were expressing anti-Semitic views, not at all, but they were certainly on the side of the Palestinians. And just two people among them were expressing views positive for Israel. They were expressing views on Israel's side. So this is just a small sample, of course, of people, but gives you gave me, it was not certainly a surprise to me, and goes exactly against what you've been saying before in relation to what these two people, or one of the two people with whom you talked, said. So I think that most of the people that didn't even know really about Israel before. Of course, they knew that there is a country in the Middle East called Israel. If now you ask about them, I'd ask them, what do you think about what Israel is doing right now? They were certainly, in a Pavlovian way, as you said before, answered they are criminals. Israel is acting as a criminal. And so my idea is exactly the opposite. as I said, there's not a recent survey has appeared about what is the majority opinion of Israel, of Italians in relation to Israel. But I'm afraid, and I think I will be I will win the bet if someone is willing to bet that most of the people here in Italy will say that that will be against Israel. This doesn't mean they are anti-Semites. It just means that they have been brainwashed by this absolutely overwhelming media operation, of which we haven't seen something alike. And I'm careful in stating this. I may sound a bit bombastic, but I think I'm not. We have not seen anything of the like from the end of the Second World War.
That seems to be the case, and of course, I suppose the refrain is, "I'm not anti-Zion. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm anti-Zionist." This seems to be a way of covering themselves.
Yes, but people just have the people that I believe that people who are not really anti-Semites, they have the perception that Israeli soldiers are baby killers.
But
can
they? True, they have been bombarded, but are they not? Are we letting them get off a little bit too easily? Are people really that gullible, that naive, or are they receptive actors? That's the question I'm tempted to ask.
I think both.
Okay, fair enough.
I think both.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Vitor?
Yeah, I want to throw something about Meloni here, because I personally found quite interesting that you guys, you're not totally happy with what she's doing, and probably you talk to other non-Italians who have a romantic idea of her. If you ask someone based in, I don't know, some right-wing person, let's just to make it simple, let's call it right-wing or conservative, whatever, based in France, Portugal, US, Hungary, they're all going to say wonderful things about Meloni. And I come to the conclusion that when we are from the country, we tend to be more demanding with our, let's say, with our government. Even if it's even if this government is aligned ideologically with our ideas. So I see you guys being tough with Meloni. I came across a couple of my friends, conservative friends, who are also critics of some aspects of Trump. We had Gary here the other day, Marco, who was also saying that, you would rather have Nigel Farage and not Keir Starmer, but still he has some concerns around Nigel Farage. I'm the same in Portugal with Ventura. I know everyone outside of Portugal thinks that Ventura would save Portugal and bring the Portuguese empire back. I'm not totally sure. So I would like to understand from your perspective as Italians, do you think Meloni is failing to be with Israel all the time because she personally is not as much pro-Israel, or there are pressions around her that don't allow her to be this pro-Israel? So is it something that is she's not able to do it because her hands are tied, or she is the issue? If that makes sense, Giovanni.
Well, I mean, that's a question I'd love to ask her directly.
We can bring it on. That's fine. I have no problem. That's no problem. If you manage, yeah, fine.
I don't have an answer. I only have an opinion. And I think that I don't know if she is personally not too prone to be pro-Israel, or if surely, I mean, pressures, I have no doubts that she has pressures, but when you lead a government coalition, you can you know it's going to happen. I mean, it's part of the game. Probably. I mean, I do understand that, having basically the rest of Europe against Israel and only Italy and Germany in favor, it must not be easy. But if you're in power and you were elected for it, then you gotta you gotta deal with it. And it's also an opportunity to show that there are leaderships that are actually willing to go against those who they have criticized during electoral campaign. I think that it's also it's not just Meloni. I mean, Meloni is the prime minister, but there are a lot of other pieces that we need to keep in mind. And when it gets to the security sector, and with that I mean the police forces, the military, the intelligence, the whole network behind it, it gets very complicated. Keeping in mind one thing, that Italy, despite what can be seen from outside, it's not a monolithic block. It has many different situations. I think that the problem starts with the Ministry of Interior in the first place. And I think that they didn't simply, I think they didn't see it coming because, maybe they had to deal with other issues as well. Now, I'm not saying that's right, that's wrong, but me and Niram, we have been seeing this from the very beginning, and we've been talking to each other, and we've seen it that, for instance, just 3 days after October 7th massacre, there was a demonstration in the center of Milan where the leader of the Palestinians in Italy said that the massacre was self-defense, and we talked about it, and we said, this is, we're going in the wrong direction here. And I think that on one hand, from the domestic perspective, they didn't see it coming. They didn't realize that it was a snowball that was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, now they know it very well. On the other hand, Italy has a big problem. It has been in relations with the Arab world since before prehistory, and that's a problem for the government, because they have to deal with which I'm not saying. For instance, I said Arabs, and that's a mistake. I should have said Islamic, because I'm thinking about Iran first of all. I'm thinking about Qatar as well, of course. I'm thinking about North Africa. But when you keep feet in multiple shoes, you're gonna have a problem. So surely in part it's Meloni, but there are many other pieces too. I mean, if you look at the statements coming from the government, and I mean, me, Niram, and others, we talk about this, we laugh about this all the time. Crosetto says one thing, defense minister, and then he gets Tajani to say no, he didn't go like that, and then you have Salvini saying something else. There's clearly an issue. Okay, remember when the UN post in Lebanon was attacked? I think it was the Ghanaian.
Yes, that's right. In Lebanon, yes. The basically the people who were the human shields for Hezbollah.
Exactly. Yeah. And Crosetto immediately pointed the finger at Israel. Oh, indeed. And then shortly after, Tajani said, no, it wasn't. It wasn't Israel. It was Hezbollah. And I mean, we've seen. Remember when Tajani said the Iranians reassured us that the Italian UNIFIL military personnel won't be harmed when the Israel-Iran war broke out. That's not a statement you should make, because you're embarrassing the military, the Italian military, first of all.
Crosetto, I think it's fair to say that he does wear his antipathy for Israel on his sleeve. I think it's fair to say that. Going back, people. This is the government, but I'd like to also to draw attention to somebody who, within the duties of his office, need not make any statements, and that is President Mattarella. He seems all too willing to commit himself, and I think that's an indicator of a very profound antipathy towards Israel, and a long-standing. Let's call a spade a spade. Niram, would you like to shed any light on that?
Well, I completely agree with you. Mattarella made an outstanding and astonishing speech a few months ago. Why astonishing, astounding and astonishing? Because at the beginning of his speech, he started criticizing very heavily Israel, and saying things are like Israel kills children in the hospitals. Israel kill people who are approaching various spots where to take food, and Israel is throwing bombs upon schools. And after having said these things, at the end of his speech, he said, but anti-Semitism is something very, very bad. So in the same speech, he was able to throw out the demonization of Israel, made up of anti-Semitic tropes. But at the end of it, he said, what we condemn anti-Semitism.
That's very interesting, because I think that encapsulate the Palestinist delirium. I think it encapsulates it perfectly.
I cannot agree with you.
The blood libel alongside the criticism for anti-Semitism,
Exactly.
the total cognitive mayhem, the cognitive mayhem.
Yes, because we have this blackout. Let's call it like this, because as you said, Jews, they kill Christian babies in order to take their blood.
We've heard that one before, haven't we?
Exactly. Jews, they poison the wells, and they are. But at the end, we are against anti-Semitism.
Yeah. It's extraordinary. It's
extraordinary. And this was Mattarella's speech a few months ago.
Yeah.
Actually, just a quick anecdote here for you guys. In Portugal, when you are, this is like in the old traditions, when people are trying to explain children how the devil looks like, they say it looks like the Jews. So this is how people used to illustrate the devil, and that's if this is not anti-Semitism embedded in a country, then I don't know what it is.
Can I just add something to what you said right now, Vitor? One of the biggest scholars of anti-Semitism, who was Norman Cohen, wrote exactly in one of his most famous books about the genesis of the protocols of the elders of Zion, said that in order to understand the origin of anti-Semitism, we need to go back to demonology. That is the main source of anti-Semitism, demonology. So this brings back the idea, where people that they even not long ago thought that Jews had a tail.
That's true.
Yes.
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 Certainly in Italy, it's a recurrent thing, wasn't it?
Of
Niram
course,
and
yes,
Giovanni.
and of course, the
Yeah.
devil has been depicted in
Mm.
many as this creature who is half human and half animal with claws and
Mm.
also with a tail. So
Mm.
this is very important now to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about this.
I think it's cross-cultural, Niram. It's
Yeah,
not
of
just in
course,
Italy,
of course,
Portugal.
of course.
And I would say it's related to Catholicism.
Yeah, sure.
If it's more of a Portuguese, Spanish, Irish, Italian thing,
But this
and not
comes
as much
exactly.
spread
This comes
throughout the
that. But
States.
this has arisen exactly from Christian the Christian demonization of Jews, because in the Islamic culture we do not have this depiction of Jews as devils. It's exactly it's the opposite, because in the Islamic culture, for Muslims, Jews are inferior to Muslims. For Christians, Jews were diabolical creatures with superpowers. So they had this idea. I'm talking about, of course, the church fathers and others, that Jews had this diabolical power. They were able to do witchcraft and etc. etc. In the Muslim world, it's different. So we have this different traditions.
Yeah.
Complementary.
Yeah, just one thing for the Muslims, everyone's inferior. If you are infidel, then you are inferior. It's synonymous. It's not just Jews. At least they are democratic on that sense. I would give them that.
Yeah, well, let's. There are Muslims who have broken out of. Let's give them that. There are in Israel, for example, an increasing number of Muslims identify with the state. We do see movement there, and I believe we need to encourage them as well, because obviously it's the thugs that determine the agenda.
Absolutely,
So I think we have to be a little bit more cautious there. So what I wanted to draw attention to, and I'd like to compare it to what's happening in Italy. For example, in the United Kingdom, we are seeing a very strong counter reaction to Palestinism. And it's been pretty powerful in recent weeks. We've seen hundreds of thousands, if not millions, indeed, descend upon London. The mainstream media, of course, tended to downplay the turnout, but it seems clear to me that the mainstream media, it hasn't been faithful to its reporting duties. We haven't seen anything like that in Italy yet.
No, we haven't. And sorry. I think, you first of all, you won't see the center right wing people in Italy take to the streets very often, and that's where the pro-Israel people come from. I mean, not from the left. Secondly, and this is the main, in my opinion, this is the main reason. I mean, it takes to get the right wing to the street. Secondly, the government, our current government, is right wing. So what are they going to do? Take the streets? It wouldn't happen anyway, in my point of view. Not even if the left was. And I think that also Italians, unfortunately, they are also very concerned with what happens inside the country. But at the same time, how many demonstrations have you seen for instance, against high taxes, against this is the main issue in Italy: high taxes,
Right.
the raising cost of life. Now, my question is, if they don't take the streets for that, do you think they're going to take the street for?
No, you're right, but my point was a slightly different one, because the Palestinism has been, to my mind, correctly identified with mass Islamist immigration. That is where they see that is why people have taken to the streets, because they've seen these these Muslim groups taking over public spaces, praying in public spaces, in front of churches, basically being disrespectful to the local Christian culture. This is the point I'm trying to make. It's not so much, I'm not sure it even turns on economics at the moment, although the burden on the welfare state is enormous. But I think it's more a question of seeing a country being taken away from them, of being disenfranchised. And I don't see Italians reacting. They don't have that awareness, or maybe they're just too indifferent, or maybe they've just given up.
That's a very good point there. And I think that one reason could be that, the UK has a much higher number of Muslims compared to Italy. And also they're a lot more aggressive than we've seen here. But for one simple reason, because in Italy, they're still behind. Like the Muslim immigration into Italy is far more recent if we compare it to France, England, or
yes, indeed.
So my fear is that they didn't realize yet what's coming.
Exactly. You've taken the words out of my mouth.
Keep in mind one thing.
Yeah.
When before I mentioned the Afghanistan and Iraq war right after 9/11. Now, back then, I do remember that the left was already against the U.S. War, the war on terror, and back at the time, we didn't have Italy still didn't have the number of Muslims it has today, because as you also know, they increased very quickly.
Indeed.
Yeah, and while I do, but when I was in England a few times back then, I do remember. Do you remember? What was his name? Abu Qatada and
yes.
Choderi.
Absolutely.
Okay. They were
I remember them. Yeah,
they were active already.
Oh, very much so.
My concern is that we're not seeing the same thing in Italy, because people still haven't realized what's coming.
The penny hasn't dropped.
That could be a reason.
Yeah,
even though I am not. When it gets to Italians taking the streets, I'm not optimistic.
Yeah,
unless it's the far left.
Or a football winning a World Cup or something.
Exactly.
If you make it to the World Cup, because Italy hasn't been in the World Cup for quite some time.
Good
point. Sorry for the provocation, but it's a fact.
I said it.
Facts are facts. Facts don't care about your feelings, as Ben Shapiro says. So, sorry. It's a fact. But just on the topic of demonstrations, I hear in Dublin, guys, there are protests every Saturday. I was even sharing that to my girlfriend. Every freaking Saturday, there's a protest. Protest for Palestine, protests and anti-racism, protests against the inflation, protests against migration. This Saturday, there was a March for Jesus. Like, with some protests, I do agree, but I'm sick of those protests. Every Saturday, there's a protest. I'm thinking to start a protest against protests once, at this point. I'm truly thinking that, it's enough, because then they close the streets. You cannot go shopping. You cannot get anywhere. So if someone is listening to me and is in Ireland, want to join this, we're going to start a protest against Saturday protests, because they are taking over our urban landscape. I'm sick of it. Every Saturday, I even checked with ChatGPT. When was the last time that there were no protests happening in Dublin city center? April. We're talking about 6 months. Like, people, give us a break. I understand. I mean, and look, I have nothing against protests. I grew up in a house where my father is a part of a union member, so I understand the mechanics are necessary, but give us a break. People need to be able to enjoy the city center in a decent manner. Like, do it every 2 weeks. It's too much, and I'm just fed up, and I have to share. And if someone wants to join the protests against protests, come along.
You had to get it off your chest. We'll allow you that.
Yes.
We'll allow you
Thank you.
that. We're here. We're listening.
We can close now. We can close the.
We
we
are
close the session
sensitive
then.
to. But you said something interesting. You mentioned the word unions, and this is, I think, it's a very important aspect of the protests in Italy. All the unions have jumped on the bandwagon.
Yes, they have, and I think that they needed, since these unions are not doing nor obtaining anything for what they were made for. They're now looking for something to
a purpose in life.
And we also have to, and we also have to analyze every single union to understand why they're doing it. For example, the what's it called? The CALP, the Genoa Port Union.
Oh yes.
They claim to be for peace. Okay,
they're very peaceful.
Yeah, but they didn't have an issue posting pro-Russia content, and they didn't say anything about the invasion of Ukraine. So you're for peace, but only on one side.
Yeah. Of course. Not to mention the various. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's like I just want to do a parallel. It's like Sinn Féin here in Ireland, the exact same. When it's Israel, in Israel, they're awful. But if it's Russia, they just look at the window like nothing is happening. I know that kind of tribe. I mean, they are experts on double standards, and you cannot really rely on their understanding of reality if they have any.
And the Palestinians are taking advantage of this because they know that the unions have the capabilities for mobilization. They have the networks. They have the means.
Indeed. The power of the unions hasn't really been curtailed to the same extent. Well, I suppose everywhere they're sort of clawing their way back in many ways. Yeah. A lot of the mayors in Italy, I noticed too, have jumped on the bandwagon. The mayors of various cities, they seem to is it a vote catcher, this type of activity?
I think it is in part. I think it is in part, indeed, a vote capture. They know, and it's also going back to what we were talking about, saying before about Giorgia Meloni. I think that Giorgia Meloni this is a very, very Italian way of playing politics. She is she's playing on various tables, at the same time. Because in a certain way, she I don't know about her. I don't think personally, but this is just a personal opinion. So, as a personal opinion, the value of it is what it is. But I don't think that she really sides very much on the side of Israel. I'm not saying she's siding on the side of the Palestinians, but I don't think she has this real empathy towards Israel. And as Giovanni was saying before, at the same time, she has a party that comes from a history where certainly hardcore anti-Semitism was part of it.
Right.
Indeed, there are many people, I know some of them inside her party who are certainly on the side of Israel. but I don't know about many others, of course. But
Yes.
the main point of Giorgia Meloni stance towards Israel is that she doesn't really want to displease Donald Trump. So she's
Right.
looking to the she's feeling as every politician is doing the same, and this is not bad at all, because it's part of being a politician. What is the climax here in Italy? And she knows that Palestinianism is growing bigger and bigger. So let's just take for an example the statement she made at the United Nations when she for to a Palestinian state, but at the same time we do not have right now the conditions for the coming of a Palestinian state.
Right.
But then she reproached strongly Israel, because Israel has been going disproportionate in his reactions against Hamas, and what's going on in Gaza is very bad. But she's waiting very much. She's waiting to what is going to happen, what was going to come up tomorrow after Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump will make a statement. In relation to the American plan, let's call it the American plan, which is the American Arab plan for Gaza, and of course Israel will have its saying tomorrow, and by then she will also act in accordance to what comes out from this meeting.
Yeah, so she's hedging her bets, essentially speaking. So I think we can deduce from our meeting this evening that Palestinism in Italy hasn't peaked yet. I believe it's peaked in Great Britain, and it's declining now. People begin to see it for what it is, basically a corrosive element to the social fabric. But the penny still hasn't dropped in Italy. That's my understanding from what you say. Vitor, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think I'll just we can come to an end with, I think we went through plenty of topics here. There's no shortage of food for thought after this discussion, so make the most of it. If you agree, fine. If you don't, make sure to let us know in the comments. We read the comments even after the discussion is finished, so the chat box is always open, before the podcast, during the podcast, and after. So this is a two sides conversation, so make the most of it.
Right.
I just wanted to pre-announce that Marco and Niram are opening a channel in Italian. Perhaps they're going to open in 2 weeks from now, in October, everything going well, so that's the plan. So they will discuss not only Italian affairs, but also global ones in Italian.
In the language of Dante.
Yes,
and in the language of Dante. And
so maybe able to see Giovanni there. Not me, because my Italian skills are still very poor. Maybe they're good enough
we can use you
order a bottle of wine.
You can be a mascot. You can be there.
Yeah, I can always attract some groupies to the podcast.
Indeed.
That's what I'm here for. That's what.
Absolutely.
So we all know that.
Niram, do you want to tell people what the name of the channel will be? Do you want to announce it? Go on. Don't be.
Sorry. The name of the channel will be in Italian, or I'll say it in English first. It will be On the Line of Fire. So, Sulla linea del fuoco is the Italian translation of the English.
Sulla linea del fuoco, tutti coloro.
Sulla linea del fuoco. Yeah. So we'll be on the line of fire, and we will try to be up to the title. We'll do our best to talk about things that are inflammable, let's say so.
Which is everything.
Inflammable issues. Which is everything. Most nowadays is almost everything. Exactly.
Good.
So Italian speakers, keep an eye for that channel. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, you see that Q&R, okay? I think you are able to subscribe using that. First time that I'm putting on the screen, so there's a Q&R with a duck in the middle. I wanted to put Marco's photo, but somehow I got the duck, but it worked anyway. So
You
maybe
put
next
my
time
name in and you got the duck. You put my name in and you got the duck.
yeah, it was AI. Somehow AI
Generated
came
the
up with a duck. I don't know why.
All
So
right. I
so
remember that.
if you want to subscribe, you can use this Q and R option, or you can just do it manually, pressing the subscribe button below. If you are satisfied with what we did here, make sure to let us know by pressing that like button below. And if you want to share with someone who may benefit from this conversation, it would be great if you can. And we'll be back because of Yom Kippur only the following Wednesday. Okay, so that will be the 8th of October. There is Yom Kippur and there is Sukkot. So we'll be back on Wednesday the 8th. And the plan is to discuss the 2 years of that massacre of October 7th. So maybe you have a few guests and we'll try to analyze where are we at the moment. And, there's so much to tell about it. I'm not even getting started. But make sure to be with us Wednesday 8th, same time, same channel. And I hope to see you, all of you. So guys, thanks very much for joining. Giovanni, you are new here, but now you are part of the furniture. That's how it works. Niram,
Thank you.
I want you back with that beautiful wall. So keep building that wall. And Marco,
everywhere I go, the wall. Everywhere I go, the wall will come with me.
Yes. That was one of Winston Churchill's hobbies, was bricklaying. Did you? I believe he used to love bricklaying.
That's why I've choosing the wall.
Not by chance. Not.
talking about the
Not
wall,
by
more
chance,
Churchill,
no.
more Churchill, less Roger Waters. Huh? That's a
Well,
mandate.
indeed.
No Roger Waters.
Indeed.
We don't want that. Okay. Have a good evening, guys.
So thank you very much.
Talk
You
soon.
do.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.